Hey everyone, it's Jen here and welcome to Jen's World About Art. So today I am going to draw a gorgeous little, or draw and paint, a gorgeous little Australian kestrel. So I'm just going to start by drawing on an outline of his little face. So these little guys are absolutely adorable. I'm just going to get his outline in. So he's very similar to the other birds' body shapes that I've drawn. Their beaks are different. Their beaks are quite different. They've got a nice little raptor beak. Okay, I won't worry too much about details just yet. I'll just get the basic shape in. He's got a fat little body. And I love his colours. That's why I wanted to paint him today, because I absolutely adore his little colours. He's got beautiful browns and reds and lots of dots, so there'll be quite a bit of detail on him. So I'm just going to mark that in. I'm pretty happy with that already. I mean, it's a very basic shape. Nothing really too complex about him. The colours is what's going to make him stand out as what he is. And he's standing on a stump, so I'll have him standing on a stump. It's like a post actually, like a power pole post or a fence post or something. So I'll draw that in. And I might even draw the wire that's going to it, because there is a wire on that post. So I'll draw that on. Okay, so I'm going to start with a light browny colour. So I'm going to grab some, it's actually a red, this is a red, and I'm going to add a little bit of white to it. It's a dark red, and a little bit of white, and I'm just going to take that, make it a little bit pink, and take that around his face. And anywhere, I can actually go over the whole thing because it's acrylic. So I should have used this palette. I've got this palette here for a reason and I forgot. I'm so used to using my glass palette next to me, but I thought I'll pop the my palette up here so you can all see it. But that's okay. So I'm just going to block this in, and I've used a little bit of acrylic drying retardant. So it just helps me get the paint a bit smoother, blend a bit more. This is a darker brown down here, but I'm just going to add this on top anyway. I'm going to add this colour anyhow because I need it to have a good little undercoat. It's a little bit lighter underneath, so I'm going to add some white. I'll put that up on this palette now. So I'm going to add a lighter colour down here and onto the bottom of his face, and just blocking that in. He's got a very little necky bit. And I'm going to change the shape of his neck there. See how I've got it coming straight down? I'm going to give him a little bit of a curve down here. Coming down to his little tummy and under his belly here, and drag that down. Get a little bit of that pinkish colour in there as well. And like I said, this is the first layer, so I'm just blocking him in, getting the colours, or getting the base onto the paper. I can do his little leg white. And this is supposed to help with finer detail as well, this this medium stuff. So I'm going to grab a little bit of cloth, my kitchen cloth. Where is it? It's over here. Be right back. Where's my kitchen cloth? Just wheeled myself across the room to grab my kitchen cloth, taking it out of the packet, and I've got some, so now I'm good, because I have a piece on my lap, because I always inevitably end up wiping my brush on it, and a little bit just to damp my brush, dab my brush a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit of white here again. I'm going to go a little bit of a reddy brown again, but a different reddy brown. I think this is burnt sienna. So you can see that's a little bit different. And I'm going to pop that up here. That's actually not a bad sort of a match. And I'm going to grab... I'm not going to use my watercolour brush, that would be silly. I'm going to grab my acrylic brush. There we go, a smaller acrylic brush. Just going to wet the end to soften it up a little bit. Now I'm going to go over the top this little guy's head and start to add a little bit, going in the directions, a little bit of detail going in the directions of his feathers. And that colour comes down here as well. And it does, that medium, the acrylic drying retardant, really does help it to blend a little bit. And I'm working on a little canvas that I've primed with black acrylic paint. So, because I wanted to work with a black base, because I've been enjoying doing that for a bit of a different effect. It creates a nice contrast with the little birds, I think. I'm just going to round up the wing shape a little bit. And I'm using a disposable palette, it's very handy. Very handy indeed. So he's got browner top feathers, and his flight feathers, he's got these bigger feathers that come down here that are a darker colour, but I'm going to go over those with this tanny colour. And his tail is almost the same colour as the top of his body. So I'll come in and take that round there, like that. There we go. Okie doke. So I'm going to grab a slightly smaller brush, and I'm going to go in with a bit of pure white. Oops, the brush has gone a bit hard. I've got to get a bit of pure white in there. There we go. And I'm going to take this around his little face and towards his beak. I can add the finer detail towards the end, but I'm going to go over this area again with a little bit stronger, just to get a bit more of a body shape to him. He's got a fluffy little butt. And anywhere that I want to adjust, if I want to change his shape at all, that's quite easy. All I do is I can add a little bit of black around that outside edge just to change his shape a little. So I'm going to go over again now onto his wings. I've added a little bit of water this time. I shouldn't have added water, but it doesn't matter. It's a bit too wet. But I'm just going to go and mark on these little brush strokes in the directions of the feathers. And I'll let the brush strokes sort of help me create the feathers. So he's got lots of smaller feathers up here. The bottom feathers are longer. So there's a couple of feathers there. And I'm just observing, I've got a few. I'm working from about 3 different reference pictures, all of which I got offline and Unsplash and all kinds of different places. So yeah, I'm mixing them all into one piece, because I really like the fence post in one, I like the bird's head in another. So it's good to do that occasionally, to mix them up a little bit. I'm going to mix a bit of this reddy brown with the white. I'm going to darken up the back of her little head. I need a bit more. I've got too much water in there. I sprayed my acrylics, and I've got a little bit too much water in there. So I'm going to start to pop a little bit more feathery detail with the tip of my brush. And then these feathers come back up towards the top of his back. And I'm also going to draw down. So he's got shorter feather there, longer feather there, and they get longer going right down the bottom of his wings towards the end I'll use my super fine liner. I've got a really teeny tiny fine liner that I'll use for the little details. So I'm just marking in the stronger browns onto these back feathers, wing feathers. Grab a little bit more of my medium that I'm using. Strengthen up that tail colour on the top. And I was working on the chest. So I'll go back to the chest, get a little bit of white with it. So the same ready brown, I'm just going to add a touch of white. Because it's the same colour throughout his feathers, or her feathers, as the case may be. I'm not sure whether it's a female or a male. And I'm just going to pop. She's got flecks through the belly. And coming onto the neck as well, but I need to add a little bit more white onto the neck. Or a little bit more of a creamy colour, I think. So I might go a little bit of white and a little bit of yellow ochre, just to make a beigey sort of colour, because she's got a beigey sort of colour on the neck. Just down here, it's not quite pure white, it's just a little bit of an off creamy colour. And it comes down onto her beak as well. There's a little bit of a creamy colour there. Goes down the back of her eyes. Come down under her belly a little bit. She's got a shadow under there. And lighter colour underneath of the tail. Like that. And then her wings are actually even a darker brown, the bottom of her wings. So I'm going to, have I got a burnt umbery kind of brown? I think I've got a burnt umbery kind of brown. So I'm going to use that brown on this part of the bottom of her wings. She's a darker brown down there. And if I add some blue to that, that'll turn to a dark grey. And she's actually got, between her feathers on this part of her wings, she's got little lighter, that beigey colour. So between her wing feathers, I'll make up with the yellow ochre. Oops, a bit more yellow ochre. It's a bit hard with this little brush. It's a very fine tip brush. A bit of white, makes a creamy sort of beigey colour. And I'm going to actually get my really super duper fine brush, and mark in those feathery lines. Oops. Like that. And that also carries on to these feathers, just to the underneaths of them. And I'm not drawing every single little fuzzy bit. I've got to take, so her feathers come down like that to the underneath. And I'm going to get this really dark brown. I'm going to make it almost grey, so brown and ultramarine. We'll add ultramarine blue to make a dark grey, a dark blue grey. And she's got colours, darker splotches in the ends of her feathers on her back. Like that. And she's actually got that dark around her eye as well. I'm going to get a bit more of my medium that I use that sort of helps to extend, slows the drying time and also acts like it helps the paint to spread and become easier to blend and move around on the canvas a little bit. And I'm using canvas board today. I primed a canvas board. I bought it pre-gessoed. Alright, so now these bottom parts, I've got to try and brown up this bottom part of her wings. I've added the trim around the edge of the feathers, but I've made it too thick. Whoops, get a bit more burnt umber there. Oh, that's actually acted weird on the paper. I'm going to grab a bit more of that paint. Rightio. Now I'm going to go back to this beigey colour, the red, reddy brown with the white, so the pinky beige. And I'm going to now add that onto the tail, because each feather comes down in like a line. That's not really working. I need to let that dry a little bit first, which I will do. So I'll go back to my beigeish colour, do around the beak, anywhere that I can see that has that, and actually take that around the eye as well. Take that around the eye. Like that, and her little beak is a light grey, so I'll make up a super light grey. Bit of black and a bit of white, just for the beak. I'm going to add a bit of white next to that as well, because her beak is two-tone. And I've drawn it in pencil first. So, and I want her beak to come down to a point like that. So hook, a downward hook. Like that. I can tidy that up with a bit of pure black, because you can see that I've lost the shape a little bit. There we go. That's a bit better. So I've just gone around that edge with a bit of black, just to, I'm going to take these feathers back to a bit. Get rid of that white that I've got around the edges that I don't want there. I can change the shape of her body just a little as I need to. She's actually got a little bit of the grey coming up there. I'm going to add a little bit of white, a bit more white to that. Just there. Like that. And I'm going to take that, get that white around the edge of her eye, as delicately as I can. Like that. The tip of her beak is a darker grey. Got to be a bit careful. I don't want it to blend in too much with the background. So I'm going to add a bit of blue and white. Instead of grey, I'm going to go a bit of artistic license here and make the tip of her beak a bit bluey. Well, maybe not that much blue. Maybe a little bit of a different, a bit stronger. Bit of a stronger blue onto the tip. Nope, I don't like that either. Okay, so I'm going to take it back to black. I'm just going to change the tip of her beak because I'm not happy with it. And I'll come back to that when it's dry. And I'm going to do her legs, and her legs are a yellow ochre tone. So I'll grab a little bit, that's a gold ochre. So I'm going to use the gold ochre onto her legs. That's almost the right colour I want it to be. And I can only really see a couple of the, I've got to make her leg a bit thinner. I've made it too thick. There we go. And I can just, by going around the outside of it with the black again, I can just take back that And change the shape of her belly a little bit too. And get some feathery bits going on her butt. There we go. So go back to that yellow ochre colour. I might actually pop a bit of that. No, I won't do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to pop the dark into her eye. So I'm going to go into the centre of the eye, like that. Just pop that down there. Go a bit of burnt umber. Come here, burnt umber. That's not going to work. Do it down there. And a bit of blue to make that grey again. A bit of burnt umber, a bit of blue. And I'm going to take that behind her eye. Like that. She does have that little bit of darker colour around the back of her eye. And coming down here. And I'll fix her beak up in a second. I'll go this beigey colour, so it's yellow ochre and white. A bit more white in there. And just do these little feathers under her chin. Like that. Now I've got to get a bit more bright white under her. Oh God, look at that big lump. Okay, get that off me brush. A bit of bright under here. And because I've toned down the bright whites with the yellow ochre and a few different colours, it's really softened the areas that aren't bright white. So the white will stand out now. I'm actually going to get an even finer little tiny brush, and I'm going to add, this is a teeny tiny brush, I'm going to add this detail down the back of her tail, back of her wing. That's still a little bit wet. I think it might be still a teeny tiny little bit wet. That's fine. I can tidy that up in a minute. This is a great little detail brush, and I just got this at the little $2 shop in a town near where I live. A little dollar store that we've got here, or in the next town anyway. Pop those little feathery lines around there, and then also like that. I've got to make that eye bigger. Her eye, I've got her eye too small, so I'm going to go over that I've done just there, and I'm just going to make that a bit bigger, because they do actually have quite big eyes, amazingly big eyes for their little faces. And I've got to tidy up that beak, so I'll go in with a bit of a blue. Then I'm going to go back in with the white. And get the shape back on that beak actually. So I'm happy with that, happier with that. I've got more of a fine point on there, which is what I wanted. And around her eye is a goldy colour, so I'm going to actually use a little bit of yellow just to get that line back around her eye. I should wait for it to dry, but I'm impatient, so I'm not. I get all excited. This is why I can't work with oil paint, because I get too ahead of myself and make a mess. Oops. So I'm going to let that dry. I have to let that dry. Silly Billy me. So I'm going to add blue to the end of her beak again. Even though it's a dark colour, I'm not going to go dark because I don't want it to blend in with the background, so I'm going to use blue instead. just onto the tip of her beak to show that there's a different tone in there. Her beak is two-tone. Just on that top bit, like that. I'll add a little bit more black into the eye. I'll let that dry then, and I will go back around that when it's dry and add that yellow again. Pop a little, you can see the little blob of water on the end of my brush. I'm going to add a little tiny speck of white onto there. Oops. Not going to work because it's too wet. That's what you get for being impatient. Okay, so I'm going to go back onto the leg, and I'm going to add a bit of reddy brown. Oops, clean my brush. Going to add a little bit of reddy brown to the back of the leg. And a little bit of reddy brown to the bottom of the toes, like that. I'm going to go back into this skin tony sort of beigey colour. Whoops. So yellow ochre and a bit of white. Take that back onto her belly. I've got to get a slightly bigger brush. That brush is a bit too small for this bit. Where did I put it? Where did it go? Where's my finer brush? There it is. Okay, so I just wanted one with the longer end on it. Whoops. So I'm going to take that. There we go. That's a bit better. There's a shadow colour under there, so I will actually add a little bit. I've got to add a bit of reddy brown to that too. A little bit of this colour, a little bit of red, bit of reddy brown. There we go. That's a bit pinkier. That's what I want, a little bit pinkier. And anything, the beautiful thing about acrylics is anything you don't like, you can change. You can always go back over it. Anything that you do can be undone with acrylic. I'm going to take that skin tony, I keep saying skin tone, the red tone, the red with the beige, which is yellow ochre and white, so the red, yeah, it's reddy brown. And I'm going to take that around the outside, pop a few little streaks on her head, like that. And I'm also going to add some of that reddy brown, more pure, onto the top of her back. I need to get a bit more warmth in there, because they are quite beautifully coloured. I've got a few gaps that I need to fill with feathery marks. Like that. I'm happy with that. Clean my brush. Go to the yellow, because I think this black is dried enough now that I can mark in that gold around her eye. Like that. That's better. Happier with that. And I might even, I'm going to go over her wing feather, these feathers again. I'm not happy with them. Not entirely happy with those. So I'm going to just go over them again with this, with the red, the reddy brown. And just make them disappear. And I'll go back over them in a minute, because I've got to change them. Not happy. And I'm going to get a shadow colour now. So I'm going to use a bit of this violety colour. And I'm going to add a bit of blue. See if I can make a purple. There we go. That's a lovely strong purple for the shadows. The shadows are a purpley tone. So I'm going to make her shadows under her wing. because she's got shadows coming down here. And shadow under a little bot, like that. She's got shadow on the back of her leg. I like using purpley tones for shadows. Under her little foot. Pop a few into the feathers around her neck, just to soften those up a little. And I might even make that shadow tone, I might use that also on her wings, the bottom of her wings, because they are quite a lot. I've got to get a bit more of that reddy colour to make that purple. It's gone very, very muddy looking. There we go. That, and then a bit of blue to get that look, sort of purpley look back. Alright, and I'm going to come back down onto her wings. I've got to let that dry a bit more. Alright, so the eye's dry, so I can now drop that highlight onto the eye, like that. Oh, and she's got yellow on her beak, so I've got to put the yellow on her beak. Just around the back of her beak where her nostrils are. Well, that, she's got the golden nostrils, so kestrel nostrils. She's a little Australian kestrel. So I'll pop that there like that. Happy with that. And I might add a little bit of that as a highlight to the front of her little leggies as well, because her little toe has got light on it in the front of her leg. I'm going to go around the edge here again on her chest, because I've lost a bit of that shape there. There we go. That's a bit better. That just gets rid of some of those pencil lines that I had before. Just drag that down. There we go. I've got to get back to those wings, but I've got to let them dry. So I might go start work on the stump that she's sitting on for now, which is a light greyish colour. It's like dried out wood. So I'm going to go a bit of black, a bit of white, just make a normal grey. Can always add a bit of blue to it for interest, just to stop it being so flat looking. So I'll just add a touch of blue to the grey, just a little touch, just to keep it interesting, not so flat looking. And I'm just going to take that right down the stump that she's sitting on, like that. And that can disappear off the bottom of the, because this is just like a fence post, something like that. Take that down straight. I keep putting my hand on my palette and I'm getting paint all over the underside of my hand, so I'm a messy painter. So now I'm just going to mix up the colours through here, because it's about the bird, not the stump. I don't want the stump to draw all the attention, but I'll just suggest the details on it. It'll help a little bit though, because I can add the shadow to that, and this acrylic drying retardant helps to spread the paint so it doesn't dry out so quick for me on the paper. There's a shadow going back there, and the top of the stump is a fraction lighter, but I will do that with a thin brush. So get all the moisture out of it, because I've got too much wet water on my brush because I washed it. I'm going to add that light back to the top of the post, and I can add some yellows into there. Like that. There's actually a dark crack running down that piece of wood, so I'm going to add some burnt umber. If I can get the burnt umber onto my brush. Take that down. That's better. And I can use that burnt umber onto there. I might have to let that dry a little bit too now. And I'll use that lavendery colour that I made. It's not lavender. It's, what is it? It's violet, a dark violet. So use that ready brown. Blue. And I'm going to use that in the shadow area on that stump. Whoops. Change the shape of the stump. That's alright, I can just take that down. I can always adjust that back again anyway, that's easy enough to do. Take that down there. I need to make it darker. It needs to be even darker. So I'm going to go more blue, less red. Oops, that's in the grey, that's not smart. Go up here. Blue, little touch of red. I want it to be almost a dioxazine, but that's working, that's working. And it's nowhere near a dioxazine purple, but anyway, doesn't matter. Just make that even a little bit stronger coming down the back there. Like that, and so you're getting the idea that there's a shadow there. And I'll also take it down this bit because there's a crack down here. So I'll use that shadow colour down that crack, like that. Okay, and now there's wire. I need to Google what barbed wire looks like. So I'm just going to Google a piece of wire. Oops. Barbed wire. Go to images, and I'm going to draw that in with my brush. So I'm going to use this grey if there's still any of it, it's still wet a little bit. Yep. Take that way, coming under here, along there. You're probably not even going to see the barbs, but I'll highlight on them. Like that. Add a little crisscross just across, because barbed wire is just like a little crisscross. I won't worry about adding one in the back there. Like that. And then I'll add a little highlight when it's dry. I'll wait till it's dry. I've got to be patient. I've got to learn to be patient. Okay, come back to here. Get back into my photos again. Because now the tail's mostly dry, I'm going to add these tiny details onto the wing, to these last long feathers coming down the bottom of the wing. Whoops, got a bit thick there, but that's okay. I can tidy that up like that. Alright, and I'm also going to add that. I've got it very yellowy around the bottom here, and I don't want that to be very yellowy. I want to change that again. I can just use the white, it'll do the same job. There we go. Let's do these individual little feathers. Like that. Okay. I'm going to now add light to the top of this wire. I'm going to grab a bit of white onto my palette up here. And just add a little flick onto the wire. There we go. And I'm going to go back underneath that with the black because I want to thin out that wire. I've got it too thick. So I'm just going to do that and just take away a lot of that underneath grey because it looks a bit too thick. There we go. So that just suggests a bit of barbed wire. Oops, I've got to get a bit of burnt umber back. A bit more there. And I'm going to make a grey. I'm going to go a bit of burnt umber. Bit of burnt umber. Like that. And a bit of blue makes a grey. It's a lovely blue grey. And I'm going to use that for the darks in the wood. Except you can see that's going a bit greeny on the grey. The grey on the wood is lightening it up. So I'm just going to be cheeky, grab a bit of black, pop a bit of brown in it, so it's not just flat black, pop a bit of blue in it, so it's not just flat black, gives it a bit of a sheen, just to really darken it up, but it's not pure black, because I don't want it to blend in completely to the background. Take that down there, like that, like that. Alright, now I've got to get onto this tail feather because her tail feathers or his tail feathers, whatever it is, whichever it is, I'm not sure. I'd have to Google. I'm going to get some white back on my palette. Is that still wet? That'll do. And I'm going to very gingerly, very gently add tail feathers back in very, very, very lightly. Whoop, I'll just put my hand right into that. So I might have to get rid of that bit of palette, like that, and grab a fresh sheet, like that. There we go. That's why I like those disposable palettes. I'd forgotten about them till the other day. I've been using a glass palette. But the disposable ones are just much easier because you don't have to clean them. You can just dispose of them. So I'm going to just tidy up the beak a little bit, like that. I'm happy with around the eyes. I'm quite happy with that. I'm happy with the wire. I think she's just about done. We're not far from being done. I might add a little bit more of this light reddy brown around in the greyish areas on her back, like that. And I'm also going to try and dull down, get a bit of that reddy brown there. I've got a lot of white down the bottom, so I'm just going to go over that a little bit, and that will naturally come back to just a lighter, it won't be pure white on her wings then. It won't look so strange to have little white lumpy bits. It'll make them just a pale red, which is more what I want for her wing tone. Wing tones. There we go. So it's less white, a little bit more reddy, a little bit more in keeping with her wings and her colours. The tails are a lot lighter, but I'm still going to go over them with that tone, that same very diluted pinky tone. There we go. I'm happy with that, and I'm going to add a little touch of white to the top of her foot. She actually has black claws, but I'm just going to pop, because you can't really see them, like a highlighty bit to suggest that there's claws there. Right, and she's just about done. I don't know that there's a whole lot more that I want to do. I might add a little bit more gold ochre, because this wood does look very grey, and it is very grey, but I just need to add a bit more warmth to it. Oops. Like that. And maybe a little bit of blue, which is a cool colour, but it also just adds a little bit of interest. Just around the top, like that. And going to the bottom, it's a bit cooler down there, so I can add a bit of blue down here. Like that. There we go. So I'm going to sign that, and I'm going to call that done, I think. And I will be entering this one in an art show. We've got an art show coming up, so I will be entering this one in an art show. So, I sign it down here. $22. There we go. I need to add, actually, before I finish it completely, I've got to add, even though I can only see one leg, I am going to add, just to suggest the other leg, because otherwise that'll drive me crazy that she looks like she's only got one leg. So I'm just going to do that, like that, the back, to suggest that she's got the back of two legs, because that would drive me crazy. I would always look at that and go, oh, why did I not just put that other leg? I've got to fluff up these feathers around there a little bit. Okay, there, now we're done. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys and girls have enjoyed this video. It was lots of fun to paint. So yeah, I will see you all for the next one. So have an awesome day. Oh no, I missed a bit. Sorry. She's got a little red bit down here. So I'll pop that in too. There we go. Now she's done. So you see little bits as you go. You see tiny little bits that just need finessing. Finessing's a great word, and she did. She just needed that little bit of finessing. Just in that little bit around her face. Right, now she's done. So, thank you for watching. Have an awesome day, and I will see you all for the next video. Okie doke. Catch you then. Bye.